The other thing about depression is it kind of collapses time.
Bro, are you listening?
Suddenly, you find your whole days blending together to create one endless and suffocating loop.
Since the start of social media and cinema, the industry has shaped the way we understand ourselves and the world around us. We use it to entertain, comfort, and educate, and many other things. The internet talks about it and portrays almost everything and has a little bit of something for everybody. But today in particular, I want to discuss mental health and how it's represented in film and media as a whole, and how it hasn't always been represented correctly or fairly. Throughout history, mental health has been depicted in media from as way back as the 19th century, although it always hasn't been portrayed accurately or fairly. One of the first examples is a film called The Cabin of Dr. Caligari. This film was a horror film that represented a connection between a psychiatric condition and danger and the relationship between mental health and violence, and this was one of the first films to influence the public's opinion and views on people with mental health conditions. Another example of a film is Psycho, which came out in 1960. This film depicts a character with dissociative identity disorder, also known as DID, a mental health condition where you have two or more separate personalities that control your behaviours at different times. This disorder is usually brought on by childhood trauma and can affect every aspect of a person's life, such as work, school, and other places. The film shows the person with the disorder as violent and out of control, negatively stereotyping people who struggle with this disorder in real life. Many of the films in the 19th century showed characters struggling with mental health depictions in an incorrect way and in an unfair manner. This film is one of the depictions of dissociative identity disorder, and at the time was not well heard of at all, and a large majority of the audience misinterpreted the delusions and disorganized thoughts as the character with the idea struggling with schizophrenia instead. The title itself already starts to spread information about the story and the character's mental health, as the character is not psychotic and it isn't a psycho, they're just struggling with dissociative identity disorder, but the title suggests otherwise. Although this film has poor illustrations of mental health, it also has a lot of other progressive elements and breaks the Hays Code, which many filmmakers at the time did not do.
And a more rigid code of standards is adopted by the studios and enforced by the Will Hays office.
The Hays Code was guidelines created by Hollywood studios used to self-censor their content between 1934 and 1968. The code was named after a man called Will H. Hays, who was the president of Motion Picture Productions and Distribution of America, MPPDA, from 1922 to 1945. This code permitted profanity, sexual violence, sexual perversions, rape, and suggestive nudity. The film Psycho broke many of these restrictions, such as violence, nudity, and gender nonconformity. It was one of the first films to show a toilet being flushed, which at the time was unheard of and considered very scandalous. The directors managed to bypass these codes by using charm and evasion to get away with some of the scenes. He also got away with the nudity by tricking the censors by sending them an unchanged copy of the shower scene. He also had the actress wear moleskin patches to hide sensitive areas and had a body double to take over from some of the more exposed scenes. The film Psycho is considered a horror film, and in the past mental health has been portrayed in this genre the most, and shows themes of madness and insanity and gives mental health a really bad stigma. Some horror movies that portray mental health depict the people suffering with it as insane or villainous. In Psycho, they use the main character with a DID diagnosis as an excuse for their violent tendencies. Another example of a character, although not from horror but has the same treatment in media, is Joker from the DC Batman franchise. He was portrayed as a mentally ill individual, but it's hard to label what illness these are, and it's heavily debated on what he actually struggles with. But the writer uses this as a reasoning for his violence, which is a heavily toxic representation of mental health, and it gives the public a poor idea of mental health issues and people who suffer with them, and in some cases causes them to fear or dislike people with mental health issues, seeing them as a threat. Many movies do this, and it's damaging to real people who actually struggle with these issues, and they may feel understood due to these made-up, untrue stereotypes. Another example of a film that depicts mental health is Girl Interrupted, which came out in 1999. This movie is based on the best-selling 1993 memoir by an American author called Susan Kazan, discussing her experiences as a young woman in an American psychiatric ward in 1960s after being diagnosed with BPD, also known as borderline personality disorder.
And what?
Is the
borderline between what and what? Melvin.
It's a condition, Susanna, and it's called borderline personality disorder.
The The movie is about a teenager being admitted to a mental institution after a supposed suicide attempt. In there, she befriends a group of troubled women who deeply influence her life. Unlike most of the films its time, the film portrays mental health accurately and avoids portraying the characters with mental illness as violent and unsafe. The movie also points out an issue with the healthcare system and not allowing women as much control over their own medical care as others. As the patients at Claymore, the mental institution in the film, aren't told their diagnosis or what medication they are given. Although this film is not flawless in its representation, the main character, Suzanne, played by Winona Ryder, is diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. This film chooses to only focus on the impulsive and promiscuous parts of this disorder, glossing over all the less attractive symptoms that come hand in hand with the disorder, such as chaotic mood swings, an extreme fear of abandonment, intense and unstable relationships, and acute anger. Of course, not every person living with this disorder experiences all these symptoms. The film also appears to treat BPD as though it isn't a real serious mental health disorder, especially compared to the other patients' illnesses. The girl Suzanne even gets told by one of the nurses that she's just lazy and self-indulgent.
But you are not crazy.
And what's wrong with me? Huh? What the fuck is going on inside my head? Tell me, Dr. Val, what's your diagnosis?
You are a lazy, self-indulgent little girl who is driving herself crazy.
She is also presented with sanity as a choice and asks her what degree she intends to indulge in her flaws, implying that she could just simply choose to get over a disorder, which is a very harmful narrative to represent regarding mental health disorders, which gives the audience a fake narrative on a borderline personality disorder and sees everyone that has the disorder in a misinterpreted light. Symbolism in this film, it all relates to life with mental health disorders in many different ways. The most obvious one, which is the main way of symbolism that is shown in the film, is colour. Examples of this in Girl Interrupted are muted colours and cold, sterile hospital settings, which are occasionally contrasted with warmer tones that signify hope and clarity. This contrast highlights the tension between the harshness of the institution life and the character's desires for freedom. Another example is the label crazy, which is used throughout the film. This label for the characters becomes a form of imprisonment in itself, symbolising how society tends to put people in boxes and simplistic categories based on their differences. The film challenges this label by showing the complexity of mental health and the diagnosis shown in the film, and how they are much more than just that. Unlike Psycho, by this point Hays Code had been abolished due to the rise in television and the board's lack of control over foreign films and the pushback within the industry that the code struggled to maintain under control. Therefore, the film didn't end up breaking any of the codes, but the release of Susan's memoir, in which the film was based on, was considered a brave story to share when mental health was not yet widely discussed and had impact on the masses, being an insightful and honest account that provides a relatable view on mental health struggles. Now I'm going to move on to the more musical side of depictions of mental health, as that is what I'm going to be doing for my final major project. Music can be a therapeutic potential for people dealing with depression or other mental health problems, not only to the listener but for the songwriter too, and it can offer a way to self-express and deal with these feelings. It allows individuals to explain their feelings in ways that words may struggle to, and can make a listener or writer feel a nice release from these feelings. Over the years, music has developed and made many different popular styles have raised fame, adapting their needs for different generations or trends, but the ability to still be able to provide comfort and make listeners feel understood persists, and allows both sides of the industry to feel empowerment to confront their own struggles. My first example of a music video is Fake Happy by Paramore.
Oh, what's the use? Oh, please, I bet everybody here is fake happy too.
As it describes the pressure to mask sadness and the importance of being honest with one's emotion. The main thing I want to focus on in the music video is symbolism and the colour yellow, as that is what the artist used to portray mental health. The colour yellow can be described as a bright and intense colour, which perhaps is why it provokes such strong feelings. It's commonly used to represent hope, lightheartedness and joy. At the end of the music video, the artist's face is shown again, as it's shown twice in the whole time in the music video, at the beginning and the end, where she's showing glitter yellow tears streaming down her face and leaving a stain. This again symbolising the idea of being fake happy and struggling to mask negative emotions. The film uses these yellow smiley faces, which are well known in culture, starting from as early as 1960s by commercial artist Harvey Ball, designed the iconic logo for insurance companies. Its intention was to boost working morale after difficult shifts with the bright yellow hue. In the music video, the people's faces around the artist, who's the main character of the music video, their faces are blocked by these yellow smiley faces upside down to show the symbolism of being fake happy and portraying the lyric, I bet everybody is fake happy too. Another film that uses this yellow hue to describe mental health is Now I'm In It by Haim.
'Cause now I'm in it, but I've been trying to find my way back for a minute.
Which discusses being in a depressive episode and going through it, the type of depression that makes it difficult to leave the house. The lead singer, Daniel Haim, when asked about the meaning of the song behind this, says, "There's been lives in our times where we felt like we were stuck in a dark hole. The track is chaotic, like my mind when I'm spiraling, fast talking to myself, words jumbled up, heartbeat racing. These times are hard to forget and even harder to work through after being constantly on the go. The past couple of years, I didn't want to stop and deal with some of these things." The music video portrays this messy and stress-inducing scenes to show the messiness of being in a depressive episode and everything's being all mumbled and jumbled and not being able to get anything done and being unproductive. This is really relevant to me, as this is the sort of stuff that I want to show in my music video. I want to show how when you're in a depressive episode, just everything seems to change and nothing seems to be organised and everything just seems a mess and everything's impossible to get through, and how to get through these struggles. In my research regarding film, I've learned how mental health in film has been depicted and how it's been shown incorrectly, and how I can learn not to make the same mistakes as past filmmakers. I want my final major project to be a music video showing the day-to-day life of a person struggling with depression and struggling with isolation. I haven't researched much about depression in my film and focused more on misinterpretation, as I wanted to make sure I didn't make these same mistakes and I learned how to present it correctly. But for my music video, for music video research, I focused entirely on depression shown in music videos and the symbolism that's shown in it. For example, going back to the fake happy one with all the upside down smiley faces, they're used to represent happiness and the idea of fake happiness. And I want to use symbolism like this in my music video, and I want to use the yellow hue that Haim uses for the Now I'm In It music video as well. My film research, although not useful for the symbolism as much, besides some of the symbolism which I discussed in Girl Interrupted with the colours and the words and stuff like that, not much of it's too useful to the portrayal of my music video, but it definitely helps the context of it and making sure not to make the same mistakes as past filmmakers. And then the Hays Code, although not very relevant as it's been abolished now, was very useful to learn about and show my research and that I know about the topic, and was just helpful to know for my context. Everything that I've discussed in this music video, in one way or another, will help me with my FMP and my portrayal of depression, in which I want to show in my music video. And it will help me to portray it in the best way possible and in the most creative way possible too.